Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Good.
All right.
So awesome.
Well, we can try. We can just try again.
Okay, y'all, so you probably hear me a lot better now, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
All
A little
right.
service issue, that's all.
Well, yeah, this is Common Criminal Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Polson. We've got Keenan Rayner back again today. If y'all didn't already
Hello.
recognize the voice, uh, but yeah,
Hello.
try some new software on Anchor. So our audio only format will go to Anchor, and that's where the episodes will appear first. You'll still be able to find them on YouTube and Facebook. But yeah, Anchor will be our audio only format, and it will be playing here first. Also available in the iTunes store now. The Common Criminal Podcast is available on iTunes to download, thanks to our hosts at Anchor. So Keenan, now it's
What is
actual.
up?
We were talking about car sales, not quite so much as a trade, because young
Right.
people obviously are told you got to go to college, and then those people who aren't academically advanced usually are told as a secondary option pursue a trade, which I think is already pretty bad. But car sales is not exactly a trade; it's not exactly a college. Could you
Right.
explain a little bit more on that for the listeners?
It's a niche. It's more of a, you know what? It's more of a performance art, to be honest with you. If you really want to think about it, it's like if performance art met wrestling world, the business world, if you want to
Hmm.
put it that way. And the reason I say that is because you gain commission. So, for instance, in card sales, their personalities, everything. All right, most sales are psychological. So when you go out onto the lot and you're out there performing for these people, pretty much, you're making them feel good. That's most of the time when they buy a car, right? So you're performing for them. Now, it's also incentivized in performance-based income. So due to your performance, your visual performance with them, that's literally how you're paid based on that and the consistency of that performance. If you look at the acting world or the entertainment industry, you're paid per gig, per show, per season. All that good stuff's the same way. You get more
Hmm.
shows, you get paid more money. You get less shows, you get paid less money. You perform worse, you get paid less money. You get perform better, you get paid more money. And it's the same thing. You're just really valued due to your performance art. And it's the same way. So like, let's say I'm in a city, right? And I've sold at this dealership for 2 years, and I've tapped into this market base, so this PMA or whatever you want to call it. And now I shift and go to a different dealership. Well, guess who has more power? I can shift my entire market network over to another dealership in the same city. Meaning, that performance base, I've earned that. I've earned that performance base to move my audience to a new route. So if Johnny Depp said, I no longer want to do horror movies, I want to do all comedy, he's now taking his art or his fans and he's shifting them from horror to comedy, but they're still following Johnny Depp, if that makes sense. So
No,
that's why I
that
say that
definitely.
there's so much power and freedom involved in the just being a quote unquote salesman.
No, that definitely. I definitely see your logic there. That's actually pretty funny. You put it that way as a showman. It was just a couple days ago. I was talking to my girlfriend. She had said to me, she's like, all these artists, all these musicians, and yet you only ever want to have car salesmen on your podcast. What the fuck is up with
Right.
that? And I was like, well, they
Yeah.
know how to draw people, talk to people, and they know how to communicate their ideas a lot better.
Right.
Artists,
Well,
usually
now don't
when
get it
you
mistaken. I'm a musician too, though. Don't forget.
stereotypical struggling artists, there are people that.
Yeah, I'm still here. Getting a little choppy, but can you hear me?
All right, I'm still on here.
Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I think that was my fault. I don't think that was your
yeah, I
fault.
definitely think it was yours. Mine is better. But anyways, so your girl. Okay, I'm following.
All right, but yeah, she was saying that all these artists, all these musicians, and yet you only ever have car salesmen on the show. And the truth is, like, car salesmen, they're showmen, so they know how to talk and how to convey their ideas. And then when you hear about the undiscovered or struggling artist stereotype, usually those people who are really very gifted but having a hard time making the sales are people that have a bad time communicating their
Well,
ideas, whether it's through art or through their words. They just can't. They're held up on promotion,
I
essentially.
think you hit it on the head. You said the communication of ideas. So it's not that a salesman is a salesman once again. You got to take them out the box and, that the misconception that they're actually selling shit. You know what I mean? We're not selling shit. We're just reading people. So the same way a psychologist gets paid a lot of money to just read people and then pretty much break them apart and build them together. They could, if psychologists wanted to, because they understand people, they could break them down and build them into evil, like evil fucking people, which some people I guess probably do. But if they wanted to, they could do that. Same thing with us. We have the same skill. That's why we get paid more than most jobs, right? Because we have this skill of being able to read people. And that's it. Is the gift is in reading people. Your doctor can read people. So your doctor knows when you go in there nervous, and they can read you and say, okay, I know how to bring you back to earth and literally explain this to you. Even though you're sick of shit, I'm going to bring you back and, kind of tell you why, though. That way we understand how we can get through this, and it makes you feel better. So the doctor does that. They'll sell you. The salesman, us, we do that. Once again, the actor, the actress does that. And it's just knowing people. An actor and actress, they know people. A salesman knows people. If you know people and you know how to communicate ideas to people, you're paid accordingly. And it's as simple as that. The most valuable trait that anybody can have, and I don't care what system, is people skills. The guy that grows up in the hood, right? He grows up in the inner city. I can vouch for this. I grew up in the inner city, right? Not a gangster in any way, any shape or form. But you can have that kid that grows up in the inner city, and let's say the story like somebody like Barry Davis. He's protected because he plays basketball, right? But he has people skills. People like him. He's funny. He's charismatic. People want to protect that guy just because of his personality. It's simple as that. Think about how many salesmen you've worked with that can't even sell shit, but because everybody loves them and their relationships with the people there, they usually do pretty well. They get a new job. They may, they may run a high end store and not be qualified to do that shit. Shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So things happen.
Man, you described the first portion of my tenure at Nissan. Yeah, salesperson who can't sell shit. Somehow, wow, why is he making 7-8 grand a month? What is that about? But yeah, no, it's true what they say though, that I'm sure that you've seen it before, that the 95% of success are like things that don't even require aptitude, and it's just stuff like show up early, look good, like be friendly, like, and those things. It's so funny, like. And it's in every aspect of life. Like, I mean, it's great if you're in sales, especially in a competitive sales environment, it goes a long way. But then even stuff with like picking up girls, like if that's what you're into, just being friendly, being early, dressing nice.
Why do you think you can major in theater? So like I remember Adam Ruins Everything. He did a show, and they were talking about security theater. In airports, like most of security measures don't even secure it. It's just like part of the theater. The same thing as sales, a sales theater. So like I was talking to one of the managers here. I said honestly, man, I was like, okay, I've done. I'm not no offense what you do, but I've done your position, shit like that. But why do you have us doing these things when you know they're not yielding you any results? And you can easily change the variables here. Do this, do A and B. That'll give you these results. But you choose not to. You rather continue to do this because this looks like you're doing something. But even though you and I both know it's full of shit. The response was, well, I got to get that money. You know what I mean? I got to get that money. You got to play the game. So you're willing to act. It's almost the same as like I compared it when I was talking to him. Remember when you were a kid, you had siblings, and some people would play house. Remember, I had older sisters, and they'd be like, let's play house. You don't want to play house. So me being a boy, I didn't know any better. I was, bringing my soft ass in there. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's play some house. So we play some house, and I'm like, we're playing roles. It's the same way when you grow up. You're playing house. The manager usually isn't more qualified. He just wears a suit and brings in a briefcase. He doesn't do anything different. He hits buttons for systems that are already put in place. You know what I mean? He can easily train you to do his job within a day, but how dare he give you that information? You know what I mean? So
you can't. How dare you say that on the air,
That's what
Keenan?
People want to hear.
Over open airwaves.
That's what people want to hear.
Jeez. No, I agree with you 100%, and that's the truth. Even with what I do now, the software we use to program and train the robots for automation. As I'm working with it, I say this is software designed by engineers for engineers.
Tell me this, listen.
But then I also say this is software designed by engineers who want to make sure that their job is never replaced by some asshole like me who just learns it on the internet.
If theater didn't trump all, right? If theater wasn't the most important thing ever, and no pun intended, if theater didn't trump all, right? So no pun intended, but if theater wasn't the most important thing, why do pretty much 99.9%, I'm going to back that, 99.9% of very attractive women have good jobs? Why is that? Okay, why is that? Why are they never non-successful?
Right. Why are, or not even just women. I
Yeah,
mean,
people in
if you
general.
look, I
People in
mean,
general.
okay,
You're right. You're exactly right. If the,
if you look at like, very rarely do you see a conventionally, traditionally good-looking guy. That, I mean, I'm straight, obviously no homo or anything. But if you meet a conventionally good-looking guy and you say, "Well, hey, what do you do there, James?" And James always he's an architect, or like some kind of architecture, some kind of medical
right.
sales, some like always some high power, sometimes usually sales
Correct.
position. Well, why are attractive people? Are things easier for them? Probably
Correct.
not. But are more opportunities given to them?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, that why do you think gym is big business? The only reason gyms are so big is because social media is so big. So your physical perception, it's like the most primitive state of man in the world, which is crazy. We got super digitized, and then we became as primitive as ever. So the most primitive thing in the world, which is our like physical makeup, superficial makeup, that's the thing that's most prized because of social media perception. So gyms are like making billions off of this shit right now. They love it. Veganism and all this shit, it's all based off of social media pictures. That's literally what it's all based off of.
Well, I'm glad that you bring up evolution, specifically of us becoming primitive in the digital age, but that's exactly what it is. We just came out of the industrial age and entered the digital
Mm-hmm.
age. So we are
Yeah, we don't
primitive,
have to think.
learning how to
We don't have to
navigate,
think anymore.
coordinate in this environment.
Yeah, we don't have to think anymore.
Right, but everything's new now.
Yeah,
So we're back down to our primal selves, but we're learning how to navigate and use the internet and the digital space.
I don't want
So
to get into
everything's
that because I
back.
think if we get into that, I'll talk about the human race being superseded, which I believe, but I don't want to get into that. I always
Oh, are you talking about us like the
yeah, because
singularity, the robots taking
somewhat,
over?
but I mean, I don't want to Alex Jones this. You know what I mean? I'm not on that level, nor am I a conspiracy theorist or none of that. So I'm gonna stay away from around it. But yeah, I had my take on that on technology.
I'll do that with Brandon. How about,
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll do
Brandon
that
on the
on a
show to
later
talk about
podcast. But pretty much, okay, since we're on it, right? Um, no, I just believe AI.
that?
The only thing missing between robots, like the only flaw is logic, and being that they're now getting logic and they're learning logic, I think that's the only thing that's missing from them to make them pretty much better inhabitants of Earth than us. And that sounds terrible. I'm a human saying that, right? I'm just looking at it logically. If I was
Mhm.
Mother Nature and I had some shit living on me, which one would I rather have? Some robots that now learn how to use logic? I'm like, oh, that's how we use the land, to work longer, or some humans that just keep fucking shit up and never figure it out. Like humans are more concerned with
Right.
themselves than they are nature and everything. So that's why I say, it's I just think we'll be superseded because we from a I don't want to say a God's eye perspective, but I guess you can say that we're kind of a primitive species if you compare us to the same apparatus that we're working on right now, which is our phone. That phone is way more advanced than us. Even though we created it, I mean, we create our children, and our children
Oh,
supersede us. You know?
our phones have a greater processing power that, like, I mean, okay, well, how do I say this? Because our brains technically are like the fastest processor or whatever, but our phones, our computers, those are quad core or Intel i7. It's got 7
See?
processors, which even if our brain is faster, it can think about 7 different things
See? No,
simultaneously. And if you can create a beat in your head and rap over it at the
it's
same
crazy.
time, you're still only running
On two,
on 2
which is still, but
processors.
I've seen a few people do that, and that's unbelievable. But still, it's only two. But I mean, it's just common knowledge. Like you said, if that's the case and we created it, it's got to supersede it. But at the same time, we didn't create shit. Because the same thing that created us created it. If you think about it, if that makes sense. So why would we be the most supreme being? If that, you know where I'm at? And I learned something with Buddhism,
Mm,
with the flawedness of our nature. I mean, we're so primitive. We still see God as we say we're made in His image, but we still see God as one man. As this man, as one entity. Because we see him as one man, we see him as our image. We mimic that. So now our ego is super inflated. So we're like, wait a minute, we could actually be like God. But God isn't one thing. God is many things. You know what I mean? So there's an old quote that
mm.
says if man were to ever see God, he wouldn't understand what he saw. And at that same token, he would realize that he never even saw God.
Oh, I think I
Yeah,
have heard
it's
that one
crazy.
before too,
Yeah, so it's like
actually.
we can't even conceive God. So because of that, we try to make this conception. That's where our ego is the downfall of everything, everything that we pretty much do. But I don't want to get into that. That goes into sales and why the sales industry exists and fashion, like the shit that we indulge in due to the physical makeup of ourselves and the superficial nature. That's where all this shit comes from. And that's why we got to protect our job. That's why we got to protect our job so much. There you go. That's why the theater, the game of charades is up.
He has been about.
Hold on.
Talk about what they would be.
Right now.
They don't like what we're talking about, so they're trying to shut us down.
They shut us down. They shut us down, Vince. We did it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No,
I can hear you now.
That's my dream. No, it seems like it's coming back together just fine. But if you listen to any has-been salesperson, for you salespeople out here who have those has-beens that still hang around, listen to them talk about when things started turning south. And it's always because their ego got in the way. They mouthed off to this guy, or they don't need that guy. And it's always an ego story of
but it's not even just sales. It's all hustles. Like your favorite rapper's rapper has told you this time and time and again in every single song.
True.
Every single song, you rise quickly and then you fall quickly. Tekashi 6ix9ine, you rise quickly and you fall even quicker. It's the same because your ego gets big and you do all this, and that's how you create. It's every single industry. It's just that in the hustlers world, the faster the money, the faster the events, the faster the lifespan. So in the hustlers world, when I put musicians as a hustler too, because musicians are hustlers. So any position where you're working for commission-based pay or performance-based pay, you're a hustler in my mind state. And that's what I'm trying to say. So the same laws that go into the hustlers law, the 48 laws of power, the art of war, these same hustlers laws have been passed down over ages.
Commandments.
Nothing, 10 crack commandments, the 10 commandments. Nothing's changed. Like nothing has changed under the sun. Ecclesiastes, nothing's new under the sun. So live by the universal laws of the universe. You'll figure the shit out. But remember, you still got to fail though. You got to go through things. And I'm realizing, remember, I'm 31, and there's nothing more that I'm realizing now is that this shit is really, like Nipsey Hussle says, it is really and truly a marathon, man. You can live it up in your 20s, have all the fast money, and then you can hit 30 and be broke as shit and be like, damn, no one knows my name. You can crash and burn and be forgotten. And that guy that was working, cleaning your floors when you're in the 20s can be blowing up in the 40s and living their life just, lavishly from 40 beyond. So it truly is a marathon. If there are any kids listening about getting in the hustler's world, just remember that. That's the best advice I can give you. Because your ego is a motherfucker. It's always going to blow up. There's nothing you can do to stop your ego from blowing up. That shit's going to come. But just remember it's a marathon, and you'll figure it out if you keep that, in your mind.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And there's definitely a lot to learn in the sales environment. There's a ton that you have to be aware of. And you bring up the Nipsey Hussle thing, which I know that you've told me in the past that you've, obviously as big as he got in the media, you told me that you kind of studied some of his some of the things he talks about. That's sales or just networking guru of Nipsey Hussle. I mean, what do you think? What's probably the biggest thing that you've learned in your studies as far as he goes?
Once again, marathon, man, and it ties into my life directly with being a cross country runner in college. So when you run cross country, which is crazy, it's all mental. Like everybody can run long distances.
Cross country in high school, actually.
Exactly.
I didn't realize you were a cross country runner.
Yeah, so anything long distance is you psychologically telling yourself, I can get through this, through the physical pain. Once I get through the physical pain, mind over the ancient Eastern technique. Once I get over that yoga technique and I do that, boom, I can get through this hump and get to the end. Oh, this is a psychological game. So distance running is all psychological. Boom, there's a whole book called The Spook That Sat at the Door. It's a book about it's Freeman, about a black dude who infiltrates the FBI. He gets in the FBI because they got to hire somebody, affirmative action. But really, he's just getting in there to learn the ways of it, the spook that sat at the door, and then to change like the history course of riots in Chicago. And he does like this guerrilla warfare campaign, blah blah blah. But the point I'm trying to make with that, where's that going with that? Bring it back in.
Oh, the Nipsey Hussle. What?
Oh yeah, okay. So because that's a book he mentions, right? So he mentions that book. So going back to that, you learn that you have to go through all these steps, and he had to play this theatrical game. He had to act like he was a top worker there and all this just to carry out his plan. Is that it truly is a marathon, man. That's the biggest thing. It's a distance. So when you're running distance and you're doing all that, and the same thing he says in that book, The Spook That Sat at the Door, he says that, he says that back in the day, they didn't believe that black men were capable of running long distance due to the psychological aptitude required to do so. So think about that. They said so black men can do short-term sports, but they can't do long-term sports because their aptitude level isn't high enough to be able to withstand that type of elongated discipline. Which I think
I'm guessing the NFL wasn't very popular back then.
Well, I mean, you got to think this was written in the 40s, but the point I'm trying to make is that mindset. So if people knew that as a psychological control mechanism to say you couldn't do that, think about how important that marathon mindset is, as above, so below. But the same thing goes in life. So you see somebody like him who he's been out since he was what? We're almost the same age. He was older than me, but let's say like 19, 20, 18, probably younger than that. And he's always been around, but he didn't blow up. He didn't blow up until he was 32. And now his words are more impactful now after his death than they ever were. You see where I'm going with that? So it's truly a marathon. And I can think about all the rappers that got passed up since then that are barely relevant now. You know, the Lil Waynes, all the little pop rap groups and the little rappers that sound the same. You don't even hear them anymore, but you hear Nipsey Hussle. So if anything, it's a marathon. And what means the most is the shit you say, the real shit sticks. And it truly is a marathon because it never ends, right? You die, it still never ends. So do what you got to do, but keep the long game intact. And that's really it. So like I said, it goes hand in hand with sales. The hustle is every day. I don't care if you wake up and flip burgers and you got to put $5 aside each paycheck, then still your hustle, you wake up and you flip the shit out of those burgers. You know what I mean? If that's the case. Or if you make shirts, flip burgers and make some shirts on the side. Sell 2 shirts a week and let that shit stack up. You know what I mean? So there's different ways of doing it.
Yeah. No, and that's the truth. It's funny. I listen to a lot of different, obviously, I listen to fucking news podcasts all day. I am a sponge. If I'm not actively engaging with another human being, I am listening to podcasts. And it is usually news-related podcasts. But listening to this one guy in particular, he talks about his whole life. He's worked in sales and politics and as like a media personality, a news anchor. So he talks about having a lot of ups and a lot of downs, which is the feast and the famine and stuff like that. And he says that part of him learning to become a true professional was learning to save during the feast so he could survive the famine. Which is totally true for any salespeople listening. You have to save. You have to.
So it's funny you said that. So yeah, he said Nipsey Hussle again, and that's his catchphrase: "All money in, no money out. All money in, no money out."
Exactly.
Big up the Chance the Rapper. When he came up in the beginning, his grassroots movement was what's called hashtag Save Money movement. So I mean, if you think the Richest Man in Babylon teaches you that's the first book you should get as a salesman, is The Richest Man in Babylon, and learn that 10% is mine and mine to keep. That's the most important line you will ever hear in your life.
And
before you start making
just
income.
Keep it forever. And if you make that, if you just always tell yourself, no matter if I make $200, if I make $2,000, if I make $20,000, no matter what, I'm going to save that 10%.
Yep.
Right.
Compound interest is the key to eternal wealth, and that's in every facet. From money to physical health to mental health. It's all about compound interest.
And not only that, but being able to weather the storm, the number of salespeople that burn out immediately the first time they have a bad month, and then they burn out right after because they just are too stressed to sell. And
you're going to go down. It's definitely not all up. It's up and far down, and you got to come up long, and then you go far down. But
once you start learning how to save and you can reach into those coffers, and that's what they called them when you were trying to establish a kingdom or a fiefdom, was that you'd have your coffers and your coffers were full. But when your coffers were full, that was when it was time to expand. That was,
what's funny? So you say that now, and the last month was actually technically a bad month. Like, we didn't really make, a lot of people didn't make money in sales as far as that goes. Luckily, outside,
well,
other
you said
ventures,
you had no days off, so I figured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I have, luckily I have other ventures still. But what I'm trying to say is that I saw that the experienced salesmen don't panic because they know they always have a nest egg, and they usually do things to secure.
Yeah, they've got their regular customers.
But not even that. They know how to move money and have money put aside so that way, in case of events, they can see down the line and say, all right, necessities are taken care of. They budget, stuff like that. They understand things. Where the new ones, they don't necessarily understand that. For instance, I guarantee you, I want to see the statistic, but I guarantee you more than 50% of new salesmen buy a car within the first probably 2 months. I guarantee you.
Oh,
They come into that bigger money and they get a car and they don't care about the interest rate. They just get a car. I did it. That's why I know I could say it. So
I
that's
did
what I'm
it
trying
twice.
to say. There you go. That's 100% right there. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to talk on my ass. I'm just trying to give, if anybody's listening and thinking about getting into sales, that you're not just going into sales. I mean, you're going into a hustler's. It's a game. You're going into a game, and every game is game theory. So just know what kind of game you're getting in. It's the game of life.
That car that I bought, you sold to me. Michael Robinson's name was on it, but that was definitely you. The Evo. You knew that was my car. You were like, oh, you played Gran Turismo? Oh, yeah, this is the one. No,
plant
you got
seeds,
me.
baby. Plant the seeds. You got to plant the seeds. That's your dream car, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
It still is.
What better time
is.
than
I can't
now?
wait to get another one. But no, that's the truth.
That's hilarious.
But no, that's the thing is you fill up the coffers and then you expand the kingdom. And that's what you got to do. And if you've got the bankroll, then you never have to sweat it, which means that you can always take your time.
It's all about the capital. Right. Don't believe it. And the reason I'm not a millionaire yet at 30 is because there's a time and a period where I believe it was about love over the bankroll. Fuck that. Bankroll is energy. You need to get that energy because if you got love in your heart, that you know what to do with the bankroll. The problem is it's a bunch of heartless. Now I'm about to start to go off. There's a bunch of heartless people out here that have the bankroll and they're afraid to do something, make shit move with it. So when you get them, thank God we get the LeBron James and Nipsey Hussle once again, rest in peace. The people that have money and are making shit move with their bankroll. That's what you do with money. It's energy. So if y'all, and I feel like if people aren't going to get that, don't get it twisted. If people don't get that and you get that, then by all means go get that money and take the money back from them. Because they don't deserve to have it. So get the money in the right hand so we can make shit move, and we'll be good. Everybody will be good. We ain't got to worry about money if money goes in the right hand.
You and I both sat through the Grant Cardone School of Sales. Feel
No,
however
I
you will.
Didn't. I didn't sit through that shit. No, I didn't. They paid for it. I didn't sit through it.
Okay. Well, I sat through the Grant Cardone School of Sales, and there's one thing he said. Yeah. And his whole thing was like, nobody saved their way into being a millionaire, which is a lie. Tons of people have done it. That's what baby boomers did. By the way, that's why they're all going to retire with $1 million cash is because they saved their way to $1 million. But no, the truth
not
is
anymore. Back in the day, but not anymore. I guess is what he's saying.
Right. Well, Grant Cardone says you have to get out there. If you're going out to dinner, that's an opportunity to sell, and he's not 100% wrong. But the thing is, the truth almost always lies somewhere in the middle. That yes, you do need to save and have the bankroll. You have to fill the coffers. But when the coffers are full, then you expand the kingdom. And that is 100% what you're talking about. Like you have to have the money to have the security so you don't sell out of stress. And then every time
and if you don't feel comfortable calling it money, call it capital. Call it capital. Just call it capital. If money stresses you out. Yep.
Right, but don't blow money on going out to fucking Applebee's so you on that money and you get if it's diet. So a microphone for your SoundCloud Premium so you can upload whatever it is.
Exactly. Or wine. If you
have to get out there, you
save a bottle of wine. That's
start your own business. A business everywhere.
Amen.
Are they breaking up the Matrix again?
They don't want to hear. They don't want that. They don't want people to know this. And if that was the case, universities would shut down. You see the NCAA thing. They don't want education. Right. That's why I don't teach. I have a degree in history. I just had a conversation today. Degree in history. Why don't I teach? Because I just don't fuck with the curriculums. They say, well, you can change it and make it flavorful. It's still fake. Like I can put as many seasonings on the Dorito chip. It's still a Dorito chip. You know what I mean? I don't want. It's not good for me. I don't want to give people that shit. So that's how I look at it, man. So yeah, man, they need this. They need the common criminal. We're the common criminals, the ones giving them the truth.
Well, that was what I said in the last episode, was that once you start preaching the things that they don't want you to know or they don't agree with, they start painting you as a criminal.
Fuck it.
And they change the laws so that they change the laws where when society starts to revolt, then you'll notice the laws don't reflect the society. So everybody becomes a criminal. They're so much more common than you think.
That's you know what I say?
When you start saying the things that they don't want people to
yep.
painted criminal. And
it
happens now. Every day. When you look at Julian.
Yep, Viva la Revolution. Yep, I'm with it. Look, they're trying to cut it out right now. I'm with it. I'm here.
Yep. It's every day, man. It's every day. But no, there's so many things out here that I think that there's a lot of salespeople who hopefully had 30 minutes to listen to this between customers.
Nice.
Because I really think that there's a lot to learn, and I think that that you can really learn something every day. And with sales, if you got to fail fast and you got to fail a lot so you can learn as quick as possible. So hopefully we can knock one or two of those out of the way with these.
Super facts. There you go. Preaching the word, man. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. I guess we should probably wrap it up there so it doesn't drag on too long.
Yeah, I got some more money to make.
Keenan, let's do this again. Yeah, and since we can do this on Anchor now, since our new host Anchor can put us on iTunes and in the Anchor library and in the iTunes store, we can do more of these 30-minute episodes between customers, so that you can share some knowledge in between customers, and hopefully some of these young salespeople can learn something in between customers.
Let's go.
All right, excellent. Well, Keenan, we'll do this again soon.
All right, man. Peace. Much love to you.
All right.